presented by Exquisite Timepieces. More about them in the description down below and later in the video. Glashutte Original SeaQ is a watch that I've had on the channel in the past, and it's one that I really liked. Divers are easily my favorite genre of watch, and divers with a vintage style and design are some of my favorites as well. So long as they don't get crazy with faux patina, I'm not too into that look. Luckily, this watch gives you all of the charm of a classically designed dive watch with none of the manufactured aging, looking like a brand new watch that you might have purchased decades ago and kept in a safe place for all that time. This version of the SeaQ has a few features that make it stand out from the model that I reviewed in the past, and those features really add a lot in terms of the overall look and feel of the watch. But before we get into those, a quick look at the specifications. This watch has a 43.5 millimeter overall case diameter with a lug-to-lug length of 51 millimeters, and it comes in at 15.5 millimeters thick and has a lug width of 21 millimeters. I do want to point out, the thickness is a bit deceiving. And while yes, the measurement is accurate, a good chunk of that thickness is in part due to the domed sapphire crystal, which stands very tall over the watch case and bezel. I will say that on the wrist, this watch doesn't feel particularly thick or chunky. Now, the watch case is in stainless steel, and it rides on a gray synthetic canvas-style strap, and it has a screw-down crown with 300 meters of water resistance with a ceramic inserted elapsed time bezel and the Glashutte caliber 3613 in-house manufacture movement. The 3613 movement is an automatic self-winding movement with an amazing 100 hours of power reserve. It does run at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and in Glashutte's original fashion, it is very nicely decorated as well. The skeletonized double G rotor is inset with 21 karat gold. The 3/4 plate has a Geneva stripe finish, and with beveled edges, polished steel parts, and blued screws, the presentation through the display case back is absolutely beautiful. And as nice looking as it is, it also being adjusted in 6 positions means that the movement is an accurate and reliable timekeeper as well. All that said, the things that make this one stand out include the rose gold accents on the bezel assembly, the crown, and the galvanized gray dial. And of course, the panorama date complication. And for a price of $15,100, while it is several $1,000s more expensive than the standard SeaQ, the added gold appointments, the display case back, and the panorama date might just justify that expense. Now, I am going to say that, at least for me, I think it's unfortunate that the SeaQ Panorama date doesn't come in 39.5 millimeters like the standard SeaQ, because I prefer that sub 40 millimeter size a little bit better. But I love the look of the big date complication on this one, and lately I have been becoming a bigger and bigger fan of two-tone watches. And between the applied gold dial markers, the gold handset, the bezel assembly, and the crown, I think that they did just enough to give you a really nice two-tone look without going absolutely overboard. Now, I have read the comments from my prior SeaQ video, and I have seen that some people weren't exactly a fan of the broad arrow minute hand on this watch. Now, here's the thing. I don't love it, and I don't hate it. I do think that it would look great with a matching pencil-style minutes hand similar to the hour hand, but it makes sense that having a larger, more legible minute hand would be on a diver. That said, what really draws me in on this one is, of course, the gray dial with its subtle, radiant sunburst effect and those rose gold applied markers and numbers. I think the display looks great, and there's really nothing that I would change on this one. The panorama date complication is also really cool, and as I'm sure most of you are aware, a panorama date uses a pair of date wheels incrementing independently from one another to display both date digits. It adds an extra level of complexity to the date complication, and it's a function that honestly I always enjoy seeing. Now, I suspect that some people will be disappointed with the truncated hour marker at the 4-hour position of the dial. I won't be surprised to hear that complaint, mostly because I'm used to hearing those types of complaints in the comments. And while I get where that perspective is coming from, it's not an issue that, personally, I find any fault with. Having the smaller marker there keeps a visible marker on the dial every 5 minutes and/or every 1-hour interval, and it gives the designers a place to apply some lume for low-light legibility, which, on a dive watch, is kind of necessary. So I'd say that it's a matter of function before form, and again, I understand why it's there. So I did mention that I wish this model came in at 39.5 millimeters like some of the other versions of the SeaQ. And as you can see here, on my 6.5-inch wrist, this one is a bit on the larger side. No, it's not oversized, but it does wear larger than something like my Submariner, and it probably even wears a bit larger than perhaps something like the Seamaster. That said, while it is a fairly thick watch on paper, it doesn't feel like a thick watch on the wrist. The domed sapphire crystal adds a lot to that thickness measurement, but it doesn't have a thick or bulky case, so it doesn't feel chunky on the wrist. Overall, it's very comfortable. I have to say that I really think this is a great watch. It has beautiful styling with a touch of class given the rose gold appointments, and I love the big panorama date. It's one of my favorite versions of the SeaQ in almost every way. I just wish that it was available in the smaller size like some of the other non-panorama date models, because a watch like that is one that I would definitely love to own. This video is presented in partnership with Exquisite Timepieces, located in Naples, Florida. Exquisite is an authorized dealer of dozens of watch brands, including SeaQ and Grand SeaQ, Omega, Oris, Blancpain, Breguet, and many more. Exquisite also has an amazing selection of pre-owned watches with new inventory coming in daily. So if you're looking for your next watch, check their website, exquisitettimepieces.com, or call their store at 239-227-2932, and let them know that you heard about them from Guy and the Just Bluefish channel. I can't recommend them enough.